All right, we are back with episode 15 of I Needed This Today, and it's a very special episode because we're actually recording buck naked in the backyard. Now that we live together in Cult Mansion, we can record these podcasts naked in the fucking backyard.
Yeah, none of that whack clothed Zoom call podcasts.
Gross.
Yuck.
You know, I'm so glad that I did that move, even though, to be honest, it was stressful as fuck because moving house is always stressful. You know, it's so many people have said to me now, moving house is like top 3 most stressful life events.
Oh, yeah, I hate moving. I've done so much of it and I'm not about that life.
Yeah, but it's so worth it though. And I think if anyone's out there, if you're like, I mean, look, when it comes down to it, it's like, if you're not happy with your reality, do something about it. You know, for me, I knew, can you hear the birds, by the way?
Birdies.
Sexy birds. I knew that to be stuck in lockdown by myself, in an apartment, not being able to be naked in the sun was going to have a negative effect on my mental health. And for me, it was a priority to be in a place where I had connection, where I had sun, where I had earth, where I had the things that I needed. So I did that, and to be honest, I am very happy about it because if you could see the scene right now, it's amazing.
Look, we'll post a picture at some point.
We will. You can probably hear some chewing in the background.
Yeah, Acacia's grooming himself quite violently. But that's okay, because he's chilling naked in the backyard too.
Exactly. How good is it to be a dog that's always naked?
He has to have his dig out all times.
So we do have a potentially charged topic to talk about
As
today.
always.
As always. Strap in. Look, we found
Nothing boring here. Nothing boring here.
The formula is trigger, 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 trigger.
That's what you needed today. You've gone to prove that today you always needed something that is a hot topic, that's potentially triggering, something that other people won't talk about usually, or at least you just want our take on it.
Yeah, everyone's thinking about it. And everyone has these conversations with the people who they think, you know, will agree with them, but they won't have these conversations out in the open in case they get cancelled or whatever. So here we are just fucking putting our asses on the firing line talking about shit that, you know, everyone's thinking about.
So where this one today is inspired from, just the other day I posted on Instagram a video of me smashing a djembe, a drum, and it's upset all the spiritual people because of
The sacred djembe.
all their spirit animals is the djembe.
Oh, bro. All the comments were like, oh, I feel sorry for the drum.
No, but it's not even about that. It's that the song that I had with it was Marilyn Manson, and currently Marilyn Manson, or has for a little bit now, been under some scrutiny, under allegations around sexual assault. Like, it's a pending case, nothing has been confirmed, and it's not up to me. I don't know what he fucking did. But people being upset that I posted that song because Marilyn Manson is cancelled now.
Yeah.
And we wanted to unpack a bit of that age-old question of, is the artist responsible for their art, and is their art responsible for the human?
Can you separate the art from the artist? Is it ethical to still support an artist whose behavior is problematic, or someone who's caused harm? And, you know, at what point do we separate the art from the artist? I think this is a conversation that, I mean, I've personally had this conversation a few times with different people, but I think it's one of those enduring conversations for me. I think it's something that, like, I'll keep returning to and keep talking about, because I don't think it's cut and dry. Personally, I don't think it is black or white. For me, it brings up so many issues about, well, so many things. Like, firstly, what are the crimes or the behaviors that are bad enough that we cancel the person? Like, where's the line? Because if I look at myself, have I done things that are, like, harmful? Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Have I done things that are unintentionally harmful? Yeah. Intentionally harmful? Yeah, that too. You know, does it mean that I'm a bad person? Does it mean that, you know, I should get cancelled? I mean, that's the thing. It's like, it depends who you talk to and where your personal moral compass leads you to. It's a really difficult one. I remember having this conversation on a panel discussion years ago. We were talking about Charles Bukowski, who's one of the most famous poets and has written some beautiful poetic pieces on life that will just crack your heart open. And he was a very abusive husband.
Yep.
And he was an alcoholic.
Yep.
And he, you know, treated his partner really badly, but his art is timeless and enduring. So can we still engage with his art or not, you know? And that was something that I spoke on years ago, and now it's like back again. And it will keep coming back because what's the fucking answer? You know, like, what is there a clear yes or no? And I'm sure that you listening out there will have your answer and will have your reasons, but maybe what we could do is argue for and against.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Well, the first one I want to put, like, against cancelling and letting go of art, like, abandoning art because of the person is, like, going back in history a bit with this person you've mentioned, who I don't know who they are, but, like, I've heard with multiple artists, directors, any kind of form of prolific creation in the world that had come from older times, from the 60s, 50s, backwards kind of vibe, is, even the 70s, is, oh, we can't listen to that person anymore because they were homophobic or they were racist. But to me, it's like, everyone was homophobic and racist back then. Like, not everyone, but a lot of people were. That was a big part of society.
Yeah.
And that was the generation they were from. That was pretty normal back then, you know?
Yeah, it was the accepted mindset at the time.
And that's like, for me, you know, I can't speak to race, but for homophobia, it doesn't really upset me, you know? Like, I'm like, cool, like, that was the times. Even with the current one, someone such as DaBaby right now, he's recently had a situation. He's one of the biggest hip hop artists right now, and he's young as fuck. He's like 22 maybe, or younger, and
he went on a homophobic rant.
Yeah, at Rolling Loud, which is one of the biggest hip hop festivals, especially for young people. And he went on a rant. He pretty much was just like, you know, if tonight you're not sucking dick if you're a guy and you're not sucking dick in the car park, put your hands up. And everyone's, woo. And like, if you ain't, you know, trigger warning for anyone listening, like, if you ain't someone that's got AIDS, put your hands up, you know? And, you know, I obviously personally don't have AIDS, but I hear that and I'm like, damn, he fucked up, you know? And he got cancelled from there. He was like on every single festival. Every single festival was like, nope, except for one, Summer Jam. And I was like, cool, like, I get it. He doubled down at first. He was like, yo, this is who I am. Deal with it.
Right.
And then a little bit later, he's like, okay, no, I fucked up.
Right.
And to me, I also look at who he is. Like, he is a hood motherfucker. Like, he comes from a place where, again, like, he's a young black man from the hood where there's a lot of homophobia still very alive. Like, if you are a quote-unquote gangster and you come from a very, what's the word I'm looking for, like, I want to say, like, what's the word? Like, just it's like a bad wealth class is what I'm trying to figure out.
Okay.
Like, come from poverty, essentially, where people get by through doing crime, selling drugs, gangbanging, etc. And it's very built on toxic masculinity, but that's their form of surviving.
Yeah.
So being gay is just the worst thing you could do to survive out there.
Yeah.
So and then he's next minute he's the biggest artist in the world. He's gonna say some fucking reckless shit, and he's gonna have to learn. But to me, I'm like, is he still a really great artist?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. And me, you know, in comparison to others, maybe, I'm a bit more forgiving in that area. So I understand that people are still upset at him. But if you liked the art before, then I feel like you possibly should have permission to like it.
Yeah.
And if you didn't fucking like the art before, mind your own fucking business. Like, don't try and cancel him out of nowhere. You don't even know who he is.
Well, look, you know, a name that comes to mind is J.K. Rowling, right? Harry Potter. And this was a series of books that were hugely influential to a generation of people. You know, we have friends who are obsessed with Harry Potter.
Nadine.
Okay, there you go. All right, we're dropping names now.
Dropping names. Well, it's not like
It's not like it's a secret.
It's not like it's going to ruin her career.
Oh, but it might.
Oh,
though.
true.
That's
Because
what I'm saying.
Nadine doesn't know anything about Harry Potter. You could cancel someone for liking Harry Potter these days. Sorry,
Well-
Nadine, you're done.
Fuck. Okay, let me just set it up. Well, you know, for those of you who don't know, J.K. Rowling, it became problematic because she has an issue with trans people, right? She has an issue with trans people. She's one of the feminists who believes that, you know, women are women biologically. If you're born and you have this particular genitalia, then you're a woman. And if you're not that, then you're a man. And it's very cut and dry, and this is my interpretation. Obviously I'm not her, but trans people are not the same, like trans women are not the same as women. And she is fighting for, you know, for, I guess, the protection of cis women's rights. So that makes her a transphobe, and therefore a lot of people have now stopped supporting Harry Potter, because it's not just about what you like or what you don't like. It's if you engage with that person's creation, then they receive money from it.
Yeah.
So like R. Kelly, for example.
Yes.
If you stream his music, he gets money, and people are like, well, we shouldn't be contributing to them financially or adding to them because, why? Because they're problematic. So for me, it brings up the issue of like punishment. So it's like, so you should punish someone who's done something wrong. And I see personally, I think there's a difference between accountability and punishment.
Yeah.
If someone has caused harm, and when I say caused harm, I mean like actually caused harm, not just like voiced an opinion. Because everyone has a fucking opinion, everyone says some shit, and it might hurt your feelings, but that may not necessarily be like actual harm. And I just think that's important to establish. Because some of the things that really like woke social justice activists say can be hurtful to people. Does it cause harm? Yeah, it does. Every time you call out a cis white privileged man, he will get his fucking feelings hurt.
Yeah.
You know, cis men hate being called cis men, and they're going to be hurt about that. But is it actual harm? So for me, there's a distinction. Like if there's actual harm that's been done, then I think accountability needs to happen.
Yeah.
But to me, accountability isn't punishment, isn't like, let's fucking strap them to a wall and beat them and put them in jail and I hope they get raped in jail and blah, blah, blah. Like, to me, that same mindset is the fucking problem with all of the systems on this planet, like corporal punishment. Like, I think that, to me, is not justice, and that's not accountability.
No.
So, yeah, like to punish someone, to me, I don't see that as the road to redemption, and I don't see that as the road to justice. Like, to me, justice is to make things right, and to make things right, to me, is not by making other wrong.
There was this, you know, this like talking about punishment and accountability, and like, yeah, working towards redeeming people. So, you know, we're just talking about DaBaby and Marilyn Manson. So Kanye West got it leading into his album, when he did one of his listening parties, he had DaBaby and Marilyn Manson on a song, and he copped a lot of flack for having a homophobe and
As a
alleged abuser on a song, and like that's not okay. And then, but then also in this, like DaBaby, on his verse, that was his first verse since all this has happened. Had a chance to sort of address it all, you know, and he talked about like, I've apologized, I fucked up, I'm young, and then also went into like, you know, and to everyone that said they were down with me and showed their true colors, like, you know what, fuck you, you know, I'm still gonna keep going, you know. So I was down with that, and then but also so I got before the album came out, I got passed a demo from, so one of the people that are on Kanye's team passed to a friend that passed to me before the album came out. And on the album, he has a song called No Child Left Behind. And it just came out on his own. But on a demo, he had R. Kelly and Tekashi 6ix9ine.
Bro. See, this is where I'm like, out of all the artists in the world that you could potentially collaborate with, why would you choose to collaborate with the known abusers? That's to me what I don't understand. Well, it feels intentional.
Well, that like, looking back at the name, it was intentional, and him on his Jesus God path. No child left behind.
I don't know. You're gonna have to explain it to me because I'm.
So like, it's essentially like you've all cancelled these two people.
No child. Okay, so they're also children of God. Okay, understand. But, like, most people are not going to get that. Like, I get
they didn't, because of the people that heard the leak had shit to say, you know?
Of course. Because it's like, and maybe, I don't know, maybe Kanye West is so woke that we just don't understand his level of wokeness. But it's like, is he ministering to the criminals in jail now? And, like, you know, like an evangelical going and preaching in the prisons?
Well, they are. That's what him and Kim were doing to an extent. You know, last year before, getting people out of jail.
But they were working, to my understanding, they were working with prisoners who had like false accusations, false convictions. I mean, that's a different story.
But also, while they're there, they're doing a bit of like seminars and whatnot to talk to people that were there for the wrong thing as well. But what they were doing were getting people out, such as people that have gone to jail for holding weed on them or something like that, when now weed is legal, and like getting people that the laws have changed but they're still in the system.
Oh man, this is a very elaborate like, it's a multi-layered discussion. Look, I'll speak from my personal experience for a minute because it's always about me.
What about me?
What about me? It isn't fair. No, look, when you have been harmed by someone and you see that person thriving, or even just existing, to be honest. I know in my experience, I have felt that that's not fair. They should be punished for what they did to me. I've had that thought. With exes who fucked me over and were really awful to me and were abusive in some way, or other people in my life who I was like, you don't deserve to live and be happy. Is the thought that I've had in my head. You don't deserve it. Everyone should know what a piece of shit you are. You're scum. And I've had to really fucking inspect that thought and see where it comes from, why it's there, and who it serves. Because to me, when I'm in my heart of hearts, like my actual true truth, I don't hate them and I don't want to punish them. What I want is for them to acknowledge that they harmed me, and I want them to understand the damage that caused and to make it right. And actually, the best thing for everyone would be for them to understand and to be held accountable. And I want my community to step in and educate them and teach them, because I know that harmful behavior comes from trauma. Like, I know that. I know that in my core, because I've done shit like that. But all of a sudden, when it's someone else's harmful behavior, we don't see them as, oh, they're in a trauma response right now. They're in a fight mechanism. You know, they're fighting their way because they're like this wounded bear, this wounded animal. And look, you can't use that as an excuse to justify terrible behavior. Like someone like R. Kelly, I watched the doco. Like, that was some fucked up shit. Fucked up shit, you know? And as a person who's experienced, you know, sexual violence and abuses and things like that, like, obviously I can't justify that.
No.
I can't make it right. There's no reason why that's right. But I think that he's mentally unwell. And I think that he has probably endured some pretty awful abuses himself that have scrambled some shit in his psyche. And I wish that he could get the help that he needs. Because from what I've heard, he doesn't take any responsibility. He denies it, and he says that he's been set up and all that. And like, to me, that is just, he doesn't have any personal responsibility or awareness. But that's when you're really entrenched in your shit. You believe it. You become delusional. That's also a part of like mental illness, is being delusional and not being able to see reality for what it is.
But also at the same time, it also has to do with the legal system, right? Is like, I'm sure his lawyer is advising, like, no, just deny, we can get through this, we can fight it, like, do not slip at all. You know, this is all assumption, but you know, these are the things. And I totally get, like, I could imagine, you know, because I've been upset at people have abused me in some way, form or way, and I've been...
You got cancelled on Queerhood Watch?
Oh yeah, I got cancelled, but like, people that have upset me before, yeah, there's been times if they haven't, like you said, you want them to take accountability, but when they don't, I can't help it. Like, even just this year, maybe last year, I don't know when it was, but I have had someone that has really upset me, and then eventually I'm like, my spite comes up, and my like, oh, then if they're not going to take accountability, I want to call them out, or I want to make, like, I want to ruin their life. But I see it, and I don't do that, because luckily I have that tools, but I can witness it. But not everyone has that. And I imagine, you know, for instance, with this allegations with Marilyn Manson, if you're someone that's been abused by him, the last thing you want to do is be somewhere where you hear him on the radio.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? I have a friend, I remember, like, oh wow, like a friend who's a big artist who gets played on mainstream radio, gets played in, like, on different airlines, etc. Like, wherever you go, you're going to hear them. I remember one time them going to me, yeah, me and my partner have broken up and they did some really rough shit to me. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna write an undeniably pop song that's gonna be everywhere, and I'm gonna address all of it, and I'm gonna make them feel guilty for what they did to me. And do you know what it did? I go to Woolworths, I go to fucking Bunnings, I go to fucking for a swim, I go here, I hear it everywhere at one point, and I'm like, you achieved it. Like, you actually we're probably getting to that person. They cannot avoid you. And I just imagine that being, you know, from a place of an abuser, even though Marilyn Manson may not be singing a song to one of his abusees, that would be a lot. And like you're saying with R. Kelly, is like, I've read Marilyn Manson's biography. Is that the one that they write themselves? Autobiography. And he has sexual abuse history, has a lot of abuse history, and he's had some very dark times in his life. So I don't know the verdict, but would I be surprised if he really did? And do I understand where it came from? Like, that's his history, and he's repeating history. That's what where trauma comes from. That's where abuse comes from. Usually you're repeating something that's happened to you, because that's what you're meant, that's where your programming goes. That's what I meant to do. That doesn't justify it. But
we got called out, and I got called out in a little comment on our podcast when we had Tyron on last week. Or can we talk about that?
Yeah.
And before we do that, can we swap positions? Because I feel like I'm getting sunburn on my back. You're getting sunburn on your chest.
And Acacia, can you get your head off the table, because you're knocking the mic?
All right, give us a moment. Elevator music. Oh, buddy, no.
And we're back.
We're back. So, all right, because we had Tyron Mowbray on our last episode of the podcast, and Tyron is a very outspoken cis man. I don't even know what cis means.
He doesn't know what cis means.
And, you know, he's a leader in his community, and he works with a lot of men doing men's work, leadership training, and he put up a post on Instagram recently comparing, I guess it was making the comparison between being coerced into sex as a form of rape, making that comparison to being coerced into having a vaccination.
Yes.
All right. So the comparison was the coercion that a woman might feel by someone to have sex, where she doesn't want to, but she feels forced, she feels coerced, and making that comparison to somebody feeling forced or coerced to have a vaccination. And he asked the question, is this rape? Yeah. Right? Of course. It was fucking triggering to read that.
Yes.
And a lot of people came for him. Understandably, I can understand why people would be like, that's fucked. How can you compare vaccines to rape? And that's another thing. It's like people, I'm going to sound like a bitch right now. Fuck it. People get really dumb when they get triggered.
Yes.
I'm sorry, but...
Myself included.
Yeah, me too. Like all of us. Because when you're triggered... the rational part of your mind shuts down. It's your trauma brain activates.
Reactive attack.
And your ability to take in information and to actually analyze it and discern it, it gets really low. Your analytical power diminishes. And so therefore people take all these words through their trauma brain and distill it down to Tyrone Mowbray says rape is okay, or Tyrone Mowbray thinks it's okay to, or whatever, it's like, that's not what he fucking said.
No.
And it annoys me, but anyway.
And it wasn't any statement, it wasn't any you should do this, this is what it is. It was,
it was a question, is this rape?
I'm drawing a comparison that I'm thinking about, what do you reckon?
Yeah. And so anyway, somebody texted... Oh, no, not texted, sorry, commented on my post on my Instagram saying, how do you feel about platforming somebody who compares rape to vaccines or what? Something like that. Something like that. And I don't know this person, never spoken to this person who commented on my shit. I don't know if they engage with my content. I don't know if they listen to the podcast. I have no clue. But that was their comment to me. And sometimes I just... don't have any time or space or energy to give to people who only engage with me when they're annoyed or upset about something. I'm like, firstly, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Do you care about me?
Yeah.
Are you sitting passively watching my content like I'm some bitch on the TV? And then when you finally feel provoked enough to say something is when you come out of the woodwork to say something. I don't have any energy for that. I don't.
Yeah. Yeah, as someone, when you have an influence, when you are a leader in some way, you remember names still. Doesn't matter how big you are.
Bro, you remember, especially my petty ass. I remember.
I remember names, and I have certain people that do that. They pop up only when they have something bad to say, and I've called them out on it, and they're like, what, we're not allowed to have a...
I feel like this is peaking.
Maybe it's peaking. We're not allowed to have an opinion different to yours. I'm like, yeah, you are, but if it's every single time I hear from you, then you can fuck off.
Yeah.
Literally, block.
Yeah, look, I've definitely, early days, I tried to entertain everyone, and I'd get so upset, and my whole day would be wrecked. Sometimes my whole week would be wrecked. I remember one time when I first launched the self-love program. Sorry, we're getting fully sidetracked. Fuck it, we'll come back.
That's what we do.
So when I first launched the self-love program, I used this photo that I had taken. It was a photo shoot that I did, and I had used an Adidas jacket to make a head wrap.
Oh, yeah.
And it was the first time I'd actually spent money promoting something. So it exposed me to a whole, new demographic of people. And I got a bunch of comments saying, look at this white chick, look at her appropriating our culture, some black women. Another white bitch, trying to steal from our culture. And I was devastated. I was fucking devastated. This is in 2017 or something, This is
Were you just
a while ago.
devastated because someone called you white?
That too. No, I was devastated because firstly I was like, did I really do the wrong thing? That was one thing. Did I really do the wrong thing? Have I really, is what I've done so bad? Because this was an old picture, it wasn't even to do with my thing, and I'd already used it for press shots and things like that, and I was like, are only black women allowed to wear head wraps? Like, it didn't make any sense to me because in my background, Indonesia, like, women wear head wraps. Women wear scarves if they're Muslim. In the village, they put a head wrap on. They carry things on their head. Like, for me, I didn't associate a head wrap with black culture. So it was quite upsetting to then receive all this vilification from strangers. I didn't know them. I had no clue who the hell they were. They didn't know who the hell I was. And that was like my first initiation into not caring. I did some clearing around it for sure.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't care about people who won't take the time to know me and understand what I'm about. Because if I care about everyone's opinion and if I worry about hurting everyone's feelings, I'll never do anything.
Yeah.
And I think about the amount of people whose lives changed for the better and whose, the amount of people who I was able to help through that program, that if I collapsed in that instance, would never have received that, And I just think like, fuck, it's some bullshit. And I'm feeling very heated about it, as you can tell, because I'm also fucking burning in the sun.
We're also burning in the sun naked, but also hot topic.
Hot topic. And I don't want this podcast to sound one-sided because I can also understand, like, it's not fair sometimes to give a platform to people who are really hurtful and harmful. For example, okay, here we go. I just tapped into someone that I'm like, fuck that bitch. Pauline Hanson.
I don't like anything.
I don't like anything. So Pauline Hanson is most famous for the One Nation Party. She thinks that, brown people shouldn't be allowed in this country, blah, blah, blah. I'm sure she's got some other political views. That's just the mainstream ones that I know.
Yeah.
I remember playing piano. I had this gig singing at the Sheraton ages ago, and Sheraton on the Park. I'd sing and play piano. One day she came in, and I saw her. And I was like, that's Pauline Hanson. I was so mad. I was like, I'm going to go be a hero. I'm going to fucking confront that bitch. I'm going to tell her that she's wrong and that I'm personally offended and that she's a racist and blah. And I was so riled up. I was so mad. I didn't even want to play. I was like, no, she should not get to enjoy my music. She should not get to enjoy my healing voice. I was like, I was fucking on one. And I'm being paid to play this gig, and I'm like, why did this hotel even let her in? I was so fucking angry. And I was like, all right, Alpha, chill the fuck out for a second, take a breath. Like, really, is she your enemy right now? Is she hurting you? Is she harming you right now in this moment? Are you in danger? Like, come on, let's actually get present. And then I went into like, well, okay, surely there's a part of her that fears brown people. She is saying these things not because she hates them and from a hate that's unfounded. There must be this computation in her mind that she is unsafe. If this thing happens, she is unsafe. It's like everybody just wants to protect themselves, and tapped into that. And then I was like, maybe, it was fucking delusional, but I'm delusional sometimes. I was like, maybe I can heal her with my voice and my music. And I mean, it's fucking hilarious. And of course I didn't, but just to go to that place inside me that it was like, why fight her when I can actually just like, because that's toxic for me. It's not toxic for her. She didn't give a shit who I am.
Right.
Like, I'm nobody on her radar. But in my world, she's become this huge demon person that should be cancelled and fuck Pauline Hanson. And I was like, that's toxic for me. Like, go to a place of love and genuine service for her soul. And that felt heaps better. Heaps better. I still don't agree with the things that she has to say. But also, there's a part of me that loves... Oh, it's going to be controversial. There's a part of me that loves... that there are people in the world like her that think that way. Like, it's diversity. I know it sounds weird, but it's like, it's different. I don't get it, but I kind of can get it. I don't agree with it, but I love that it exists.
So, yeah, this is something that I am quite passionate about in the manner of, I don't believe in deplatforming anyone. Anyone. Like, if they created that platform, if they got people that follow them, I find that really important to know that those people exist. Because if we just get rid of Pauline Hanson, Donald Trump, we get rid of all the racists, they don't have a platform.
Yeah.
Just because they're not on the internet or on TV, they still fucking exist. And it is confronting, but I think it's really important to see that. I remember, it's happened multiple times, but one time I made a TikTok to your song Go Back to Where You Came From, which is your song about you going back to where you came from. But
that I didn't make a TikTok to.
well, I made a TikTok to your Ex-Demon song as well.
Because you're the TikTok monster.
And
I love
to
you.
Breath. I make TikToks to all your songs. Okay. Anyways, but, it's your taking that, what people say, go back to where you came from, that racist term, and flipping it and using it as a healing medicine for yourself. And I used it in a manner of talking about myself going back to where I came from and where my DNA, where my heritage, where my ethnicity is, rather than just being a white Australian and talking about white Australian culture and not feeling connected to it, and then talking about my own culture. And it went wild on TikTok because I must have I tagged like Australia or something in it. So then
all the Southern Cross
tattooed people were like, pretty much like, fuck Aboriginal people.
It was fucking crazy.
Like, fuck you for saying you're not Australian. You're not really Australian.
Well, because you said something in the TikTok about like carrying shame around your white identity or something like that.
Carrying shame. I've always not fully identified with just like barbecues, VBs.
That's right.
Doing burnouts in XL, VL, Commodores, and this is like very much in a certain area of white Australian culture, like sausage sandwiches and wearing thongs and socks, like these.
And no leftovers after dinner.
No leftovers, one sausage each for white people. And these are all things that I experienced. I love sausage sandwiches, I love thongs, I love burnouts, but it's not. Didn't feel like this is all of me, you know? And so I questioned that, and just all these people came out of the fucking works, and I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
I have been living in my bubble where I thought these people didn't exist anymore, but they well and truly exist.
Yeah.
And I think that's really important that they have a platform so I can go...
So you can see it.
So I can see it, so I'm not just the white, ignorant person going... racism isn't a thing anymore,
Yeah.
So then I have more empathy
100%.
for my coloured friends that I'm like, oh shit, this is shit that you do deal with, that you do see, because I'm not on the lookout for it.
Your friends who are POCs.
Yes, people of colour. And yeah, that was very enlightening for me to go, okay, like this is something that I got to bring back to, something that I've got to put in my awareness more often and put that message out, because I've gone woke 3000, and it's like,
oh my god, that is an amazing rapper name. Holy shit! Sorry, that just really got me in my feels.
But yeah, I'm worrying. I'm like, no, we've ascended past racism or homophobia or whatever. And it's like, no. Go back. Back to the foundations of things that are so important. And even speaking on Pauline Hanson, like, I remember having such a confronting moment when I went on my pilgrimage out to the desert. I drove out there, and I have this mad fantasy about what the Northern Territory and Uluru and all this is like. I think it's going to be wild land. It's going to be people that are quite in touch with nature. And I go out there.
All the Aboriginal shamans, like,
all the shamans are going to be out there, but no, it's fences everywhere. There's, like, national park, there's resorts, there's this, there's that. And a lot of the fences out there and a lot of the signs of people's houses have vote one, Pauline Hanson, One Nation. And I'm like,
really?
Wait, what? Isn't this like predominantly Aboriginal, Indigenous and land?
The whole country is Aboriginal land. But yeah, that's crazy.
And just to be like, oh my God, it must be such a conflict out here if so many people believe and support Pauline Hanson.
Oh, man.
But then, because, you got to think there's like these people that have like 1 million acre properties that do farming, like industrial farming, that they want that, Pauline Hanson, like political views.
It's fucked, but I can understand it. Like, if you believe that it's your land, white Australians, that's what they were brainwashed to believe. And that, like, that's through propaganda, through the history that we're taught in school growing up. We're taught Captain Cook discovered Australia. We're taught that Australia was this unclaimed land that England set out to find new land. And it's so like, oh, it's this heroic adventure and we found this new land and now it's ours and look what we've built here and we're the greatest country on earth. That's a propaganda of the government to make it okay that they've just come in and stolen land that already had culture on it, already had civilization on it. So if you grow up brainwashed that this is your land and this is my farm, I own this land, these animals, this is my farm. And then if you have, you know, migrants coming to the country, stealing what's yours, or even if you have Aboriginal people, you know, coming into your land, and especially if they're dealing with the trauma of colonization and they're dealing with addiction and they're dealing with poverty and they're dealing with all these things. And of course, it's going to be two completely different realities. And it's like, I can understand that it would be like, no, I liked it before when it was just mine. I don't want to have to share my shit. I don't want to have to deal with all those people's problems. It's like, even though actually you caused those problems. But I get it. I really fucking get it. And it's shit to say, but I also empathize with One Nation supportees, One Nation party supporters. Like I can understand the feeling. I don't think it's very intelligent. I don't think it's very aware. When I say intelligent, I don't mean book intelligent. I mean emotionally intelligent.
Yes.
But I can understand it. I don't know, maybe, fuck. It's a really fucking hard thing because what is the answer? To me, it's like, the answer to me is not to get up on my fucking social justice high horse and condemn everyone into change.
No, you can't. That's just like again and again, you can't shame someone into change.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Like, the empathy piece I get, you know, because I grew up down in Jervis Bay, which is very rich with Indigenous people, which is great. So I learned a lot about the culture of Aboriginal people. So I didn't have as much indoctrinating, conditioning around racism for First Nation people, but everyone else, it was rich within me, you know, like from my family, from school, like trigger. I'm not going to go too far into like some of the slurs, but I'm going to just give you a bit of a like understanding of my history and cancel them if you have to for saying things that aren't racially okay. But where I grew up, like anyone that was like black, not First Nation, Australian black,
like African heritage.
Heritage, for instance, there was like maybe in my high school 2 people.
Right.
And do you know what their name were? Their names were Token.
Jesus.
And in every year...
You mean the actual names? No, surely not. That's like that's the names that everybody...
They get it on their jersey, like Token, like, and they embraced it.
It was Token. The joke, Token black people.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Token black person. And then, like, for instance, with anyone that was... I don't know the full category, but like anyone that's Lebanese, Greek, whatever, there was like maybe 1 per year at school, and their nickname was Wog.
Yeah.
And they would also have it like, I had friends down there, and on their like car, their number plates were Wog. You know, so like Wog Boy, who is very infamously known here in Australia.
Yeah.
And then, you know, I remember coming to Sydney. And first of all, I remember one of the funnier things. I remember meeting lots of different Muslim people, and then one day I had this Muslim friend, and she just looked so different to all my other Muslim friends, and I was like, let's say her name was Linda. Linda, why do you look so different to all the people from your country? She's like, what do you mean? I'm like,
oh God,
you Muslim people just all like from wherever Muslims are from look so different. And she's like, Muslim is a way of belief, like it's a religion. And I was like, oh my God, I thought you were all like from Muslimia.
Oh my God, sorry, I'm dying.
And then another occasion, I remember, so I was 17, I had just been at a rave, so I'm in Sydney, had been at a rave, and then we go back to like a kick-ons, and I'm with some people from the coast, like 1 or 2 people from the coast that used to be there, live in Sydney, and then I'm with a whole bunch of other people who were like Turkish, Maltese. One was like all these different, I don't know their full ethnicities, but a whole group of them, and they were like Eshe lads from like from like Mount Druitt and Blacktown and all this area, and like some of them, I remember if anyone knows Aziz, Umayrin bro, cultural icon from West Sydney who passed away. He was there, a bunch of them were there, and I'm on my phone to a friend, and they're like, oh, from down the coast, and they're like, oh, what are you up to? I'm with this friend from back home, and this person, and they're like, who are they? And I'm like, I remember those WOG guys we were hanging with at the rave, and I just remember just the energy completely shifting in the room. I'm like,
oh God,
my spidey senses are telling me
I've done something wrong.
I've done something very wrong, and everyone that was my friend moments ago don't feel like my friend anymore. And I'm like, anyways, I gotta go. And like someone was like, yo, you can't say that. I'm like, so like what I'm trying to get at is like I come from a place where that was normal, and then I've come up and there's million and other one things that are way deeper that I've had to, I like this person that I might be woke activist, equality person, whoever, that's not always who I've been. That's who I thought I was maybe, but in reality not. And still to this day I'm still pulling out all of this because I am surrounded by community that have great values around being inclusive and finding this equal playing field. Yeah, like you're saying, with the One Nation people that are racist, homophobic, whatever you are, I can have empathy because that was me at one point, and that's what I grew up around, and I had to put in the work. It's not that I say it's acceptable and that it's an excuse, but
it's understandable.
I can understand because that is me, you know? Oh my God. All right, one more just to cancel myself well and truly.
Can I do a wee while you tell the story?
Yeah,
all right, cool, but I'll listen telepathically.
So I remember I had a really racist frame of mind for coming up. There was no Indian people where I grew up, and I remember coming to Sydney and having these like very indoctrinated racist views around Indian people. And one time on Facebook I posted this racist status, and years later, like as I moved to Sydney, I started making Indian friends, and I then quickly realized that, oh my God, like all these views I had are wrong. And then I also, on Facebook, I don't have Facebook anymore, but it tells you once a year, oh, this is the status you posted last year. And I remember it coming up, this is like 5 years ago, you said this. And I was like, oh my God, like I freaked out. I deleted it so fucking quick, and yeah, essentially I was like, oh my God, if any of my Indian friends had seen this, I wouldn't know how to explain myself. And this is what can go on, like, so I'm more so like putting myself out there to go, I understand, and you can grow out of this, and you can learn, and you can fix your mistakes, is essentially what I'm trying to say. And Mama is back. Acacia, move.
I'm back, and I'm back with a passion fruit. Woo. Okay, I missed the story, but
I want a tangent to something. So back to DaBaby. Hey, Acacia, you have to move. Move.
Ah!
Move. Hey.
Guys, if you could see this scene right now.
Now I'm just gonna move him away.
Acacia had a good sniff of my butt earlier. Oh, dogs are so great.
So what I wanted to talk about around like going back to DaBaby, when he was getting cancelled, Elton John and Madonna, you know, two queer icons, like condemned him and wanted to cancel him. And I found it so weird as people that have been under scrutiny a lot of their career and have faced a lot of, you know, early days cancelling. And then Miley Cyrus put up this thing and was like, hey everyone, as someone that's made a lot of mistakes in my life, I just would love for us all to give a bit of compassion and empathy to DaBaby, and like tagged him in it, and it's like, hey DaBaby, like I've shot you a DM if you want to talk, because I've been where you are before.
Nice.
And I would love if you are open to it, to maybe having a conversation and possibly educating you so you can learn from this mistake. And I was like,
It's
yes,
beautiful.
yes, Miley, like
Beautiful.
I think that is what's important, as someone that has been there and she's survived, and you know, not without some battle scars, but yeah, pass that knowledge on.
What shits me is this expectation that you should know. You should just know the correct terminology, and if you don't know, don't ask. You should just Google it. That shits me, man. And you know, I've been guilty of being on both sides. I've been that person as well. You should just fucking know what the correct terminology around, you know, gender identity is, around, you know, like racial stuff. Like, you should just fucking know. And this assumption that everybody should be doing this work and this is the most important thing. Like, you got people living in completely different realities that just, like, it's not even in their fucking awareness, not even on their radar. And if they never have had to come into contact with these themes, how the fuck are they gonna know? You know, and I think it's just so arrogant and self-righteous and actually counterproductive to just expect people, like, even, okay, fuck, tangent.
We love a tangent.
But coming back to what you were talking about, like, even the older generation of trans people often didn't know they were trans because they didn't see it a lot. So therefore it's just like, well, they'll create some other terms, right? Like, a lot of the early drag queens were trans, but the words that they used were drag queens because they didn't want to get surgery, or they didn't want to, you know, for whatever reason. And now they're having to re-educate themselves on what the proper language is and the best way. And, you know, it's like, and expecting that everybody just knows this is the new thing. It's like, it's really difficult, and it's really dismissing of people's different, you know, even like people's different learning styles as well. Like, if you have some kind of neurodivergence and it's hard for you to understand the nuance and the intricacies of language, to just expect someone to just fucking get it is really hard. You know, like, it's not okay to call someone a trans, but to call someone trans is correct, right? So things like this, or to call a woman a female, that's not PC. But if you're saying she's a female whatever, then that's okay. Do you know what I'm saying? So, like, these little intricacies in language.
Can you break that down a bit more for me? Because I don't know this one. A female what?
So, like, if someone is like a female musician, right? Or like a female police officer or a female fireman, whatever. But if you call a woman a female, that's derogatory.
So if I was like,
all these females.
My friend Alpha, she's a female.
Yeah, that's
not cool now.
That's not cool.
Why?
Well, because a female is like, it's like dehumanizing a person. To just refer to them as a female. So female is like a descriptive word, right? It's like, say, for example, she's an intelligent police officer, but you can't call her an intelligent, if that makes sense. So you refer to animals like, you know, females, the females, or whatever, but not with humans. Or like, for example, just earlier when you said, you know, my colored friends, like, that's a derogatory term. But that's the thing. It's like, but isn't it the same as saying people of color? No, it's not. And these are all just fucking evolutionary language that we adopted because it makes people feel better. Like, you know, in the 80s, you called Aboriginals you don't even say Aboriginals anymore. That's derogatory. So, excuse me, you have to say First Nations people or Indigenous people, or if you know where they're from, actually referring to them as, you know, their tribe or their clan. And then in the 80s, Aborigines was still accepted.
Yes.
But now if you said that, that's just, it's problematic. And so that's what I mean. It's like people need to learn, and people will only want to learn if they actually feel that it's going to benefit them in some way. And it is what it is.
Well, that's like you're saying with like elder quiz and like drag queens, etc. Like their generations are different, or like regionally people are different. Like people down home, like in like Indigenous friends and elders that I'm connected to. Like, they're totally cool with Aboriginal, you know? I remember when I first sort of was looking at etymology and looking at, like, what words mean, I always thought original was a bit weird for me. But I was just going by what's there. But, like, yeah, like, for instance, some queer people, like, of, like, older heritages or like, you know, older generations, like they're cool being called a tranny, you know, or like whatever.
It's fine. It doesn't have the same charge.
Or, you know, if you're, it's like, it's, again, regional. Like people from the city, their language is changing quicker, but then if you go out to the country or something,
it's not.
And people are like, no, we're here and we're fine, you know, and they are usually like, the city people are problematic, you know, and then the city people are like, no, the country people are problematic, you know. So when we have the internet and it's everyone is from everywhere and they're using their language from where they're from, that's everyone's using their normal, but usually because of the city has more numbers, you have to change because you're outnumbered. Because
the expectation is that like all queer people or all black people or all Aboriginal people all want the same thing and think the same thing and feel the same thing. And it's total bullshit. It's not true. You know, I have a lot of friends, women of color, who they don't care about like the terminology that you use. For them, they just, it's not their reality. They don't care enough. They don't feel offended if you blah, blah, blah. But then I have other friends, women of color, who are really particular about their language and how you know, and it's like, I think for me, what's really important is see people as unique individuals and find out the language and the way to relate with them that actually works for them. I think it can be a form of laziness as well to just assume that, oh, this is the correct terminology now, so I'm just going to use this with everyone. Like, everyone's different. You know, like some gay men love to be called fags. They love it, you know, and some men it's like extremely offensive. So how the fuck would you know if you just blanket assume, you know, make some assumption?
One thing, for instance, you know, I think it's healthy to have conversations around learning and fighting against your learnings at times. Is this a female thing? For me, it's like, you know, because I don't know the full background of it at this current moment, but if I were to call someone a female, like that does identify as a female, to put the label on that it's like that's putting someone down, I would, in my assumption and in my like view, it's like, for instance, if I did that about you to someone else, you know, like that's offensive. I'd be like, to my understanding, like Alpha takes pride in being a female and stands up for being a female, and whatever you want to put around that is cool. But the same with me, like as like, for instance, if I put it into men, and I don't know if it's the same with men, but like Paisley's a man, and though I identify as fluid, I still do that, which means I do identify as a man. I know in a lot of history and a lot of what men face is he's not a real man. So when someone says he's a man, it's like, oh, so I'm not a real man and I'm not a man either? What?
All right, let me just say, let's go back to this. So female and male are biological terms to describe...
Yes. He's a male, sorry.
Yeah. Well, that's why. It's like if you call someone
if I call you
male,
a woman, is that fine?
so if you call someone, a woman is different because that's like what it is, you know, it's the actual object, it's the actual, I guess it's a pronoun.
It's a pronoun, yes.
Whereas female and male, technically, when referring to humans, are adjectives, describing words. But we use them when we talk about animals, right? It's like the males, you know, the females. But when we talk about humans, we say, you know, the woman, the man. We don't say, we put the females over here and the males over there, because it reduces them to just their sex, if that makes sense. It takes away their humanity. It just reduces them to their biological sex.
So, I want to continue to unpack this a little bit.
Yeah.
So, you know, something that I always struggle with, and especially what I see a lot of feminists do, is they call man, oh, he's a dick. You know, as if a dick is a bad thing, right? And like my current responsive body is like, so we're going to go into a generation, into a wave of, if I call someone a female, which is by sex, not by pronoun, I'm going to get cancelled, right? But then it's like...
You won't get cancelled. You might get some side-eye.
Yeah, of course, of course. But, you know, I'm sure there is people out there that would love to cancel someone over that.
Everyone wants to cancel you, especially.
But if the same person that I referred to as a female said, Paisley's a dick, which is sort of the same thing, because it's looking at sex, right? Like,
no, it's different. Different. It's the quality. So a dick is a noun.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
Female is an adjective. It's a descriptive word. So it's like, how do I like... So like the reason why calling someone a dick is offensive is because you're assuming that dicks are somehow offensive, right? That's the reason why. So it's not because of, like, it's still offensive because you're dehumanizing someone. You're calling them, you know, this sexual apparatus, genitalia. But it's a different sort of reasoning, if that makes sense. But I see where you're going.
Yeah. Okay. I'm over that now anyways. Whatever.
But this is what I mean. See, language is complex and language carries charge.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why we're so hung up on language. Whereas, like, I don't care if you call me a female, if you called me a cunt, if you called me a dick, if you called me a fag, if you called me a this or that, I don't care. Because I know you. And I can feel what you mean when you say those words, because the way that we know each other. Right? But if someone else, like, I can call you like, oh, fuck, you're a sick cunt. Or I can be, you fucking cunt. You can tell, it's same word, completely different meanings, right? So, like, I think we have to increase our intelligence emotionally and also, like, energetically. What is the energy that a person's giving to you? Like, does it come from malice or does it come from just, I just don't know any different, you know? It's like, that's the thing, because in a lot of countries, if you say wog, that's like extremely offensive. Growing up, it wasn't offensive because all the wog kids reclaimed that word and was like, yeah, we're wogs, and that's what you do to deal with trauma as well. You just reclaim it, you make a joke out of it. That's how you survive. That's how queer got born. It's like initially queer was, you know, that was a derogatory term, and then all the queers were like, fuck it, we're queer, we're here, we're queer, you know, and then you reclaim, like, bitches, yes, bitch, you know, that's also a reclamation of the word. Same with the N-word. Obviously, we can't say it because we can't reclaim it, but I think it's so important to just, for me, like, blind accepting of things, like, this is what we say now. Why? Don't question it, just do it. That's dogma. I don't care how woke your dogma is. If it's dogma, it's bullshit. You have to be able to understand it, actually, for it to make sense to you so that you can be authentic when you're communicating. Wow, we fucking tangented so hard today. We really went on a tangent.
Yeah, well, you've got to wrap up. You got work.
I do. I have to teach the kiddies.
But final thoughts on.
But we're not finished.
You got like 10 minutes until you got to start work. Right?
I know, but I feel like we need to continue because we didn't answer the question. Can you separate art from the artist?
Right. Final thoughts on can you separate the art from the artist?
Damn it! You know, I like to play devil's advocate. You know, I like to go the opposite. But I feel like, wow. Okay, this is really tough. There was a recent post that I read by she's a really cool. I like her. Her name's Clementine Morrison. I don't know if anyone has heard of her, but she has a podcast called Cancel. Wait, I'm gonna get it because it's really important.
I feel like that's what we're gonna end up having to change our name to. You're not cancelled today.
Clementine Morrigan. Sorry. Eco-socialist, anarchist, writer, dog mum, fucking cancelled. Trauma-informed polyamory. Fuck the police means we don't act like cops to each other. Yeah, so she has a cool podcast which basically talks about cancel culture in the left.
Yeah.
So I've been checking out her stuff. Her podcast is called Fucking Cancelled.
That's essentially what we've become, right?
Well, yeah, but like, I guess what I want to say is something that I read of hers recently where she was saying, if you cancel a person, if you don't, like, especially with art, if there's a known abuser, like, art is their creative expression. It's also a place where they get to exercise their demons. It's a place where they get to release their shit. And if they can do it through their art, if that can be an alchemical process for them, I think that's really healthy. And to take someone's practice away is really unhealthy. Like, to say that, okay, no, you cannot make music anymore, we don't want to see you, it to me that like denies certain aspects of our collective human existence and experience, because the truth is there will always be danger, there will always be harm, there will always be threat, there will always be quote unquote bad guys. You know, it's always going to be here, and I don't think that you can sterilize humanity by trying to get everyone to only be good. I don't think it's possible. I think what has to happen is, like you said, like, if you can see it, then you can do something about it.
Yeah.
And now the question is, what are you going to do about it, and is it actually effective? If you're going to cancel, shame, put them in a fucking box, throw away the key, you know, people say this shit about pedophiles all the time. Let them rot, fucking hang them. It's like, okay, well, yes, you might be protecting more people, which is great, reducing harm, but what happens to that person? Are they not worthy of life now? Like, to me, that doesn't sit in my system.
No.
And so when it comes to separating art from the artist, I think that let things be known. Like, as much as we can know, pull things out of the shadows.
Yeah.
But take away the shame and the blame. Instead, replace it with love, justice, accountability, education. Like, love people back into their true essence, if we can, heal them. And then be discerning, make your own choice.
Yeah.
Like, I would never go up to R. Kelly and say, here's $500.
No.
But I really love some of his music.
Bump and grind.
Heaps, like bump and grind, you know, and like there's some songs like What Do We Do? Like, I love that. Michael Jackson. If you try to get me to never listen to Michael Jackson again, I will punch you in the face. Michael Jackson is my fucking hero, musical hero. Michael Jackson's music to me is fucking part of my makeup. I could not.
Yeah.
He's dead now, so if I stream him, he's not going to get the money anyway. But it's like, I do think that even the most rotten people have a medicine for us, especially if they're artists. I do believe that, and I'm just going to finish there.
Cool. Yeah, I just ditto. I don't feel like I need to go on the big rant of my feelings on that. I feel like what I'm just going to do as my medicine, I have to jump into a session, but today I'm going to make the cancelled playlist of artists and just listen to them today as a...
Oh, it's integration task.
It's my integration task to this.
That makes me feel sick. It really does.
Get all the... Like, I'm going to look up who are cancelled as well, like who have been cancelled, who's have been through the fire. And just
Azalea Banks
over and over. She has some fire songs.
She really does.
Cannot handle her. Like social media, her views, the things she goes on. I'm
She's
like,
a lot.
You're too much, you know.
Yeah.
But
why can't we cancel Beyonce? Beyonce is like one of those people who everyone loves because she's so good. Like, she's a really fucking brutal capitalist. Like, okay, this recent campaign of hers with Tiffany and Co.
Up cans of worms.
Just quickly,
No,
Tiffany and Co.
don't bring up
campaign.
the Basquiat thing because I have so many views on that. Don't do it. That's for another podcast because I am not willing to go into that Jay-Z, Beyonce, Basquiat, Tiffany and Co. thing right now
Fine.
because I have so many views about it. I have a session. You have kids to teach. We're not doing it.
Cancel the kids! Cancel Beyonce! All right, thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. Look, it has been a tangent upon tangent in this episode. I feel like there's a part 2.
Yes.
I think we really need a part 2, and I think we probably need to get some other voices in here because you and me just think the same shit. We need to have some disruptive ideas. But yeah, just want to thank you for tuning in and also just encourage you to please like, share, tell your friends about us and tell us what you needed today.
Yeah, please subscribe. Let us know what you needed today and continue to give us topics to talk about. Reach out to us and yeah, keep sharing. Like, if you're a fan of this, for instance, not the last episode, but the episode before this where we cancelled ourselves and talked about COVID and lockdown and blah, blah, blah. That was our most, in like 24 hours, it got the most views and or listens or whatever than any other podcast we've done. And it's because people, one, you resonated, you liked it, cool, thank you. But people were sharing it because of it aligned with your views and it got more people onto us. So
Yeah.
if you do think and feel like this and feel like these conversations need to be out here, that's why you listen, give it to just one person.
Yeah,
you know?
definitely.
If there's, say there's 10 of you that listen, there is more, but if you all give it to one person, that makes it to 20. We're going to double our numbers
Yeah.
and we're going to have more of this conversation happening.
Yes.
So please do that.
Put Joe Rogan down for a week and pick up fucking I needed this today.
Yeah. Well, Joe Rogan has COVID right now. So...
No, but he's healed now because he took ivermectin, but that's another podcast.
Okay, but anyways...
Look, we love you and we really appreciate your support, and we have a lot of fun recording these podcasts. So again, like, if you want to give us your encouragement, I'm not going to say feedback because fuck your feedback, but I want your encouragement and I want your support only. Yeah. Positive vibes only.
Positive vibes. All right, love you, goodbye. I'm waiting for you to